Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction and recovery. Join your hosts,
the Podfather, Jersey Ed,
Miss Meg,
as they break the silence and speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friends in Recovery Podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, along with
Miss Meg. What's up, you guys? Live from Zoom. What up?
What's up, Miss Meg? Jersey Ed here, and stuck in my garage again, guys. I'm still in the fucking garage, so...
You keep saying stuck, but I see you over there with a cigar, hanging out. It doesn't seem like you're stuck.
I got a refrigerator full of food. I'm not stuck, but I'd rather be up there with you. Well, you guys aren't even up there. Jesus Christ.
I'm up here.
You are a producer extraordinaire, Sweets.
I am.
So what are you wearing?
You change a flat?
I can change flat.
What are you wearing today, Sweets?
So today I'm going with a traditional hoodie. I feel like that's just what today deserves. Just a hoodie.
Does it
Nothing
have
else.
the Easter ears on it because tomorrow's Easter? Does it have the Easter ears?
No, just a hoodie. That's it.
Is that over or underneath the furry costume?
Well, it's over. The furry costume's just the standard. That's always on, but it's the hoodie. Yes.
Okay, guys. Now our guests are saying this is a fucked up show. We want to get the fuck off. What are we even doing? So, but we have a couple. We have a really cool guests today. We have 3 guests actually, and somebody who we've been working with. Well, talking to and talking back and forth on each other's shows. SoberPod is here today. Carl, Steve, and Ellen from SoberPod, and welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know we've been talking about. I know we've been having our little says back and forth. He said that, she said that. Wicked Boner was thrown out a couple times.
Oh yes, it was. Oh yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
So this is just to identify. I'm Carl. I am one of the hosts on SoberPod, and I'm gonna throw it over to Steve so you can recognize a voice there.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve. Thanks for having us on today, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Ellen?
Ellen, alcoholic, sobriety date June 11, 2013.
See, I thought you guys were going to do that. I thought you guys were going to do your sobriety
When
date.
in Rome.
Man, this is stupid.
Okay. I'll start over. I'm Carl. I'm alcoholic. My sobriety is August 22nd, 2014.
Right.
I'm an alcoholic. My name's Steve. Sobriety day is February 7th, 2010. Ellen's the only one sticking to the gimmick today. So props to her.
Yeah, good job, Ellen.
Well, guys.
Thank you guys for having us. Seriously. It's been a long time coming, so thank you.
Yeah. So that's how they start off their show. You guys, and these guys know that every time I come up there, they said something about us. They talked about us. I'm like a little kid in a candy store when you guys talk about us, and like, I mean, what's fucking wrong with you? But
well, vice versa. But yeah, we do the same thing. I sat there. You guys were, I think it was with Chris the other day, and not the other day. Geez, probably about 3-4 weeks ago. And you guys talked about the wicked boner that he was throwing out, and I was rolling actually listening to it because I was like, because you guys had played us back, and I was like, holy shit, that's what we sound like,
I know I had to make sure we play you back. So, but no, really their show. All kidding aside, SoberPod is probably one of my top 3 shows that I like, and
Great show. Friends
in Recovery and Answering the Call, the other 2, and I'm not going to tell you what order they're in, but I really, the content that you guys have on there, you're a really traditional kind of recovery show. We get a little crazy, we talk a little bit, so do you guys, but you guys get into the meat and potatoes, and your heart is in it, which I love, and I get really good information from you guys. So all our listeners, you gotta listen to SoberPod. I'm telling you, it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. I'm serious.
It'll change your life.
That's right. And you'll get a wicked boner on top of it.
Yeah, you might get a couple of wicked boners along the way.
One of my favorite shows is Wicked Tuna, and I watch it a lot. I'm an old man. I don't do much when I get home at night. But every time I watch it now, I just crack up. I go, how the fuck did they get boner out of the tuna?
That was Carl, I believe.
Yeah, you got to try pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ellen, I always wanted to ask this question. How do you put up with these two? Good Lord.
Oh my gosh.
I feel
The
your
saint.
pain.
She's a saint.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of them I actually live with now, so and that's going really well.
Nice.
Steve, I'll let you know how that turns out.
And yeah, Steve's saying so, but and Carl, I love Carl. I just love these guys. I just tend to have love for everybody. I see the best in everybody. It's hard for me not to like people, so I don't know. There's no real answer. It's like these guys they're funny. They make me laugh all the time, and they try to make me cuss, but
Yeah. Sure.
not yet
If you get her,
successful.
if you get her frustrated enough, she might. Yeah, just a few
I
things.
might, yeah.
Well,
Really good.
You guys have a lot of laughter, that's for sure. Your
Yeah,
show is
yeah.
enlightening. It's live. It's lively. It's great. It really is. When Eddie does the podcast pick of the week, which is he finds them. And I'll tell you, he does a pretty good job. But this is definitely the best so far, no doubt.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of podcasts out there, and I actually have done the same thing. I've listened to just a ton of them, and even like I got this year I started to try and focus on like codependency and stuff. So I go and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to listen to codependent podcast. Oh man, if you guys thought that we were a fucking bunch, yeah, it has been just a clusterfuck of podcasts in terms of codependency. So I can't wait till we actually produce some more content relating to that stuff that actually is more interesting. We'll see. But yeah, I know I've been listening ever since I got sober. I have been just a podcast connoisseur because, I work all day. I'm creative. I put my headphones on. I listen to this stuff. And then, every once in a while, one will come up and then disappear. One will come up and disappear. And then it's like, and all of a sudden you see one that's sticking around for a couple of years, like you guys and us. And it seems to be like, oh, you get kind of, the magic happens and you get to discover kind of more about, what this is about in terms of being in actual recovery, having fun in recovery, telling the stories that we tell and interacting the way that we interact. I think this is just one of the ways that, I like to participate with our community, which is kind of weird that we actually have a podcast recovery community. And I just love getting other people on that are like part of, what we do. I just think it's really interesting. So this is something I really look forward to all week. So
absolutely. I woke up 3:00 in the morning thinking, fuck, I thought about you, Steve, at 3:00 in the morning. Okay, that's pretty bad. And I was fully clothed, I swear. Okay,
Should I be worried?
But I was thinking about your Alex Jones and Nixon your impressions, and that's what made me start thinking about the Wicked Boner and all that.
Wait a minute. If you're thinking about Alex Jones and Richard Nixon and getting some wicked boners, then
we changed our podcast format. We didn't tell you guys.
Hey, all right.
Miss Meg, you want to tell them about it?
Oh yeah. You don't even want to know.
We're gonna have to arrange for a special fifth step episode.
That's right. So real quick, guys, and any questions, listen, your listeners are going to be listening to this too. So if you want to ask questions to us and, we can get into the why we're here is the program, obviously. But I want to know why SoberPod. That is such a cool name. Why SoberPod? How did you get it?
To be honest, I had one of my best friends growing up, when I was younger. So when I was younger, I was 20 to 25 and I went to Narcotics Anonymous and, I met this guy there and, we knew each other through program and stuff. And, he stepped away from, going to meetings. I stepped away from going to meetings, but, we re-met together at Burger King, working at Burger King when we were younger. And, he ended up being my roommate and all this other stuff, and then we ended up like relapsing together. He went and he had 3 years of sobriety and I had 5. and he stepped up to a bar and ordered a drink. We went out to go dancing and stuff, and he went to order a drink, and I went right behind him, ordered a double vodka rocks, and I didn't put it down for the next 15 years. But here's the thing, we stayed in touch and stuff. But that's the thing is, I went and hit bottom at 42 and started going back to program and AA. And it's the thing, when we were younger, we didn't read the book, we didn't do recovery, we didn't really get into the thing, and nobody fucking grabbed us by the ears and said, "Hey kids, this is fucking recovery." I would have, nobody fucking did that for us. And maybe they tried, but I just don't remember any of that. So so here's the thing, I get about 6 to 8 months sober, and and I'm getting it. I'm actually getting the deal. I'm working with Steve. Steve was my first sponsor, and I'm getting the deal. So I pick up the phone and I call the guy and I say, "Dude, like, hey, like, this is what the real deal is." Like, I actually made him like go pick up a book and take a picture of it and send it to me. So I knew he had the fucking answer in his hand. Right. And basically, he just kept stumbling. He couldn't get it. He kept stumbling. He couldn't get it. And I just, so we always talked. He was in radio, actually. We had always talked really well, had a lot of good fun, really good vibe. And I just thought, why don't we just do a podcast? He brought it up. I brought it up. He had 12 days sober. And I thought how cool it would be if he documented each week what he was doing for his recovery, because he kept getting like 30 days and he'd bail. He kept getting 60 days and he'd bail. And I just thought it'd be a way to kind of like, also keep me accountable. Fuck, I thought it'd be awesome. And so I threw a bunch of stuff out there for names and whatnot, and he came up with a name like 2 days after we talked. And I just went and said, "Great, let's purchase it. Let's go." And got the domain, and within less than a week we were already doing our first episode. So he got 30 days or 28 days, and we did 4 or 3 episodes together. And then he asked me at the point that I was doing the 4th episode, like right before I was going to do the 4th one, he called and bailed on me and said he just doesn't want to do it anymore. And there's other stories behind that, but you know what? Let me just say this much: it's been 2 years, and I recently talked to him. He's sober. He has 10 months, somewhere around 10 months right now. And and we talk, and we still have that connection, and he's doing good. We just checked in, and he's raising his kid like he should, and he's being the dad that he can be right now. And and he's hurting, because he's he's a hairdresser, right? And he can't cut hair right now, so he's kind of out of money right now. But yeah. So that dude, he was a real kind of catalyst for this thing. And it was just a way to try to keep. And then here's the thing: on that 4th episode, I picked up the microphone and I said, "I'm going to continue to try and do this, but I need fucking help." And then that goes over to Steve. Steve, why don't you share? Why do you do this?
If only I could answer. Why? Well, I remember actually a while ago, like one of the things, like Carl and I we'd initially met because he just asked me to sponsor him. So we went through that, and, we just kind of clicked. And then later on, I remember asking him a couple months before he started Sober Pod with the first host and the first co-host. And then I listened to the episode when it came out, and then I heard him say, I heard the first 3, and then the one where he said, "Okay, the guys, are we not saying the name, Carl?"
Of what?
Jason?
Jason, yeah, you can say his name. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if that, I was like, is this a thing?
Just don't throw out his last name, his address, that
yeah.
kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. I'll put down this cue card then. I'll take that away so we don't have that information. But I heard that episode when Carl was saying that, hey, I want to keep doing this. And, and I had actually, the first time I heard Carl talk about sobriety was on a different podcast. I don't remember the name, but he called in.
I sent you the link.
Yeah. And I remember actually being taken aback where I was like, oh, Carl's a better talker than the guys that host this show. And like, just thinking, wow, he's actually really good at this. And I wanted some kind of creative outlet, some kind of thing to help shake up my own recovery. And I thought this would be a lot of fun to do. So I went over, we sat in his garage. It was a little odd sitting in the little plastic chairs and just recording with the little makeshift studio he had.
Looking like Ed right now, looking exactly like Ed. That's exactly how we,
Yeah. That's how it looked. And we just cranked out an episode there. And I remember a day or two later, Carl saying like, "Whoa, dude, we've got like 200 people listening," or something like that with the podcast stats. And we just thought that was the coolest shit ever. And just to keep going and to find my primary thing was wanting to find a way, because I had tried listening to a bunch of recovery podcasts, and just the ones that I had found, I wanted something that I wanted us to create something that didn't make recovery sound like it was a consolation prize. Like, hey, you tried to live and be a drunk and a drug addict and it didn't work out, so this recovery shit here, you can have that and it's okay. Like, I was like, no, this is the grand prize. Like, this is the thing that you should want. This is the upgrade from being where you were. You can still have fun. You can still be, you know, you can still have a foul mouth. You can still say
you fuck sticks.
Like all of that. And that's just what we wanted, you know, that's just what I wanted to do. And then we just kind of been winging it from there, if you can't tell. But it's been a lot of fun.
Well, Carl and I were talking before, and I'm like, listen, Carl, we usually just walk into the studio and then wing it, and the Podfather sometimes even know what the guests are. Miss Meg is running, you know, I'm almost there. I'm not telling. Sweets has no idea what's going on, and I said we pulled together somehow. I said, I know you guys aren't like that. And he's like, what? I said, well, you don't make it sound like you're like that. So,
well, you know, before every podcast, and I don't know about what you guys do. Do you guys like kind of get together, kind of have a basic topic, and then that's what we do. We have a basic topic, but then we kick it off for like maybe 10 minutes beforehand. Like, well, okay, what are we gonna do? So if you listen to Sober Pod live on Facebook, so you can go on Facebook and watch us do it live. We don't save the video, we don't want to keep our faces off of it so we can freely talk about, AA and our experience there, and still uphold traditions. So that's one of the things that we do is we record that on Sober Pod Live because it's a closed group. So you have to join the group so that we know that you're kind of one of us. So it's you're considered one-on-one, from a internet kind of, stance. But, so you can see us in that first 10 minutes before we begin, we just start talking like, to each other, like, okay, what are we talking about? And it's just like this, like, it almost looks like we're just kind of like gathering up a bunch of shit. Right. And then and suddenly we just start making, sense of it all. Right. We start putting it on the table. And I just think that, by the way, for me, recovery happens, and this is the spiritual part of it. People talk about spirituality. For me, that's what this ends up being, right? It's like, we're sitting here and, and what is flowing through me is bouncing off you and vice versa. And that ends up being very spiritual for me. So that's one of the things that I appreciate with Steve and Ellen is it feels very spiritual. When we sit down, I think that we all have the same intent, that we're all there for the newcomer. We're all there for the new guy. We're all there to reinforce our recovery as well as help others to understand their own recovery. So it's one of those things that, like, it just happens and then by the time we're done, sometimes I will look up and go, wow, it's been 2 hours. And I just think that's just amazing. That's just the amazing part of it.
So I want to get the real story. Ellen, tell us the real story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Ellen, you keep your mouth. You know.
Don't worry, we have a Miss Meg here. She's going to tell the real story. So
yeah, week by week, it's different. Like some weeks we're more organized than others. Some weeks we actually have a script written. We just kind of take it day by day and week by week, like whatever. We kind of cater it to around our lives, like what we had time for that week. So if someone has an idea and they feel like they have enough time to write it out in a script format, or maybe one of us finds an article that's interesting, then we'll plug that in, or throughout the week we text each other. We have a text thread, and we put out ideas like that. So I think it comes together pretty well. We attended the same AA club, so I think like we're kind of unified in that kind of format. So hopefully it comes off nice. Steve and Carl are much better about looking at other podcasts and actually comparing, contrasting, see what works, see what doesn't, kind of thing. I am
Maintaining,
so not
shit
that
jokes.
person. If it's not on Netflix, I probably don't know who you are. I'm sorry.
Tiger King on Netflix.
Yes, Tiger
Tiger
King.
King.
Yes, thank you. And
New
I feel
episode
bad
Sunday
because
night.
they're like talking about, people or, friends in recovery. It's like, okay, the thing I know about you guys is basically wicked tuna. And I heard clips and I love it. I don't know. I'm just not like big on preparation. I'm more just wait until the moment and see what comes out. I want to aspire to be more like preparation oriented, but it just hasn't worked so far. So it's like I just show up and here I am.
It definitely works on the show.
So you guys do the same thing, right? You guys kind of ad hoc a little bit.
Get Podfather, you tell them how we do it.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. No, it's written. No, I'm really enjoying. I'm a hyper guy. I'm really enjoying listening to you. I've been sober a while. I've been sober half my life. I just realized I turned 66 yesterday. I've been sober 33 years. I mean, and I'm still kind of an immature asshole, But no, but listen, podcasting to me was like Chinese. I did have no idea 2.5 years ago what a podcast was. Eddie and I had been to a few meetings. We don't live in the same neighborhood. Obviously, he lives in Philly and I live up by Boston. But we started, as friends, we met each other and our businesses kind of crossed paths. And then we were smoking a cigar one day at a place where they did podcasts, cigar store. He did them upstairs. And Eddie said, we got to do a podcast. We have a lot to offer. And next thing you know, we're doing Friends in Recovery. And it was quite a trek for him coming up from Philly up to New Hampshire. For me, it's 20 minutes up the road. And we did that for a little over a year. And then we met, Eddie knew Sweets, but we met up with Sweets. And we're kind of the same thing. We don't really, we have guests, so that kind of helps a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like we just meet on the fly. We just get together and we do it. And the most important thing is I'm listening to all three of you, Kyle, Steve, and Ellen. And, the beauty of this is Mike, Megan, Ed, and myself, and you three, we're all sober. And, whoever thought, like when I used to go to AA meetings, I was a cop for a long time. I was kind of scared going into the meetings. I didn't know if somebody was going to hit me with a fucking bat or, hey, that guy arrested me, but I found that the people that really cared about me were in the halls. I'm a big AA guy. I get on my knees every day, every night. I read the books. I run a step meeting on Tuesday nights. Anyway, this is my life. It's what I do. I got my degree as a therapist in substance abuse. So I've been really involved in this, but this podcast stuff is just, to me, I love it. It's like an outlet, and I know we are helping some people. But listening to you guys, I tell you, when you were going off on the Wicked Boner and the accent, it just fucking cracked me up. And then listening to your podcast, it's like, yeah, you guys really, you gel. The three is gel well, and we're all in the same. We're all in the same vessel, trying to help people. And Miss Meg came on several months ago, and I mean, talk about an intelligent, gifted person who brings so much to the show. It's like having a bookshelf full of encyclopedias next to me when we're doing the show. She just pops in and we get it out there. So that's my little spin right there.
And Miss Meg, tell us why and how you came aboard with us too. Tell the podcast the sober podcast listeners how this story whole.
Well, it's a break up the sausage fest is what it was.
That's what it was.
Yay!
Hey, Ellen, they needed that feminine energy balance. They were
That's
fucking
right.
starting to lose
Exactly.
it. Like, all right, okay, let's bring her in. So Ed, we connected so my other podcast is The Addictionary, and Ed and I connected about sort of doing a little swap for coming on each other's shows. And then so I came up, I did an episode on Friends in Recovery. And like you guys are saying, like it's just sort of like a magical thing that happens, I think, when people can get into a room that all align on something, and then the energy is right and the vibe is right, and you realize the conversation just gets carried without anyone trying to force it. And you're sort of like spontaneously sort of just adding and developing this content as you go. And it's like a beautiful thing. And I think you see that, like you guys are saying, with these recovery podcasts across the world, actually. And I just think sort of it adds a benefit. I mean, I think sort of when we all sit down and come up with ideas about a different topic, we all have so many different vantage points. So it's an endless stream of consciousness of everyone just like adding to it. It's great. And I think that's the beauty, is like people go to meetings and they get a benefit from that. People go to other social supports, they get a benefit from that. People heighten up their spirituality and religion, they get a benefit from that. But when you can take all of that and deduce it down to this little thing that goes up on an app and someone can tune in and not feel alone for that hour, I mean, it's fucking powerful shit. And it's a beautiful thing.
Wow.
Like we see it in all of this.
And they can be in their underwear when they do it. That's even better. You know?
Exactly.
Dance and do it.
Hey, do you guys read your reviews? Do you guys read your reviews on like iTunes and stuff?
Sweets actually has them right there.
I do have a couple. Would you like me to read them?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I have, I get by with a little help from my friends. Thanks, Friends in Recovery Podcast, for being there 24/7 for people who might need to hear you. Great show. Awesome guests. Another one says, excellent show. I really enjoy listening to the guys run the podcast show each week. This is obviously before Miss Meg joined. Each show is bringing valuable information to the forefront. They also have humor and keep your attention. I enjoy each of their guests, each one unique with their stories and valuable information. It takes a village to try to knock out this epidemic, so each story is very valuable. And they continue with many positive reviews.
So you guys have like a 4.9 review, right?
That's cool.
See, and I think
that
that
good?
I think what you guys need to do is piss a lot more people off, because like we're at 4.7, right? You know, we got a handful of 1 stars. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I think you really need to go there. You know,
That was me. That was me. One of them.
You know, so we're down at 4.7. You know, and I just, you know, from our reviews, I think one of the things that really gets me going sometimes, and Steve and Ellen know this, and I live for these reviews. Like this is one of the things that, like, you know, when we talk, when early on in the show, we talked about stuff like, you know, why we do this. And, but, you know, the other reason is, like, I always envisioned that there's this guy, Mike in Nova Scotia. And he basically was like fucking, you know, in some cabin in the woods. He's fucking, you know, he knows that there's like a bottle of fucking, you know, rum, like fucking 3 miles down, but he's just, you know, it's all cold and snowy. And, you know, and it's like, and he decides to pick up a fucking, you know, the podcast instead. You know what I mean? Like, so I was kind of, my persona of like, somebody that I'm helping is like Mike in Nova Scotia, you know, like, you know, it's like when you talk about an AA, it's like, you know, even an Eskimo could come along and fuck it up. You know, hopefully we could come along and make it better. Right. Mm-hmm. You know, so, so I live for these reviews. And I think, you know, for some of these, like, you know, are obviously me. You know, I think I wrote on one of our reviews, been listening since day one. I love it. I really enjoy this podcast above them all, you know? So, but then there's, you know, the other ones that are like, you know, just, I have no clue where they are. And it just, you know, does it for me. It's like, you know, it says one of these, like, it's a 5-star review. It says, Ellen, Steve, and Carl are a great trio. I love their humor. We are not a glum lot. Honesty and total lack of schmaltz. I don't even know what that is. It's something from the East Coast, I'm sure.
It sounds dirty.
He says it's easy to sound like Joel Osteen when discussing a topic like recovery, and I really appreciate that these three avoid that. P.S. Only complaint. Every once in a while, it sounds like they lean away from the mic, so I have to strain in to hear them to do that. Do you guys ever do that? You guys ever?
Oh yeah.
I mean, Sweets, what do you think about that, huh?
It infuriates me.
Oh, he doesn't let us freaking burp, breathe, nothing.
I'm constantly crinkling up little pieces of paper to throw at them, and, you know, flick
Or
things
how about
at them
this
to get them
noise?
to pay attention and lean into the mic.
This noise.
If he wasn't so big, I'd whack him.
Hey guys, real quick, we're going to keep this conversation going. We're going to take a quick break here. Unlike SoberPod, we do have sponsors that we have to take care of. No, I'm just kidding, guys.
Hey, we are our own sponsor. Okay?
I know.
That's right.
And I'm actually going to have Steve talk about how our folks can help you guys out sponsorship after the break.
I'm taking hand jobs.
So isn't Eddie.
We'll be right back.
I gotta check my flat. I'll be back.
I wonder if his flat has changed since the last time he checked it.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery. Welcome back to the Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery Podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Genesis House, for supporting this show, along with individuals in recovery and the people that love them. Friends in Recovery Community of Support holds events across the country sponsored by Genesis House in Palm Springs, Florida, Marlton, New Jersey, Newtown, Connecticut, and Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. The Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery Podcast is powered by your likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. And please be sure to do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review. And now here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Friends in Recovery Podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, along with
Miss Meg.
Miss Meg and
Hi, Miss
Ed.
Meg.
Jersey. I think I'm Jersey. Is that who I am? Jersey Ed? I guess.
You are. And our producer extraordinaire.
Sweet
Man.
in the background.
Hey,
We
got some guests today, Eddie. It's been a great 20 minutes. It's been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, real quick though, I want to do a Jersey Ed podcast pick of the week because this is where it goes. It goes right here, right, guys?
You're gonna need a drum roll for that.
I will. Sweet. So drum roll, please. There you go. So I'm gonna have a weird podcast pick of the week this week. There's gonna be 3 podcast picks a week. So it goes like this. Jersey Ed's podcast pick of the week is Sober Pod, The Addictionary, and Friends in Recovery, and also Answering the Call. So I'm pushing everybody out there today. But we have Sober Pod on with us today, Ellen, Steve, and Carl. And of course, we have the lovely Miss Meg from The Addictionary, how we met, and the Podfather and Jersey Ed from the other 2, from Friends in Recovery and Answering the Call. So Answering the Call, guys, you guys probably haven't listened to it, but for your listeners, Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast. Podfather is a retired police officer, and we do a health and wellness podcast for the first responders. So that's what Answering the Call is.
It's kind of like a weird recovery podcast orgy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We pepper spray each other and whack each other with clubs, and I cut guys up.
Why didn't I become a first responder in recovery?
I'll tell you when.
Running from them.
Carl, you and Ed have a lot in commman. I'll tell you.
Well, I do want to.
Am I right?
Yeah,
Sweet?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do want to thank Carl. Right? I want to thank Carl for supporting Friends in Recovery, the podcast, obviously, too, for being on here, and Ellen and Steve, too. But Carl comes on to our Friends in Recovery AA meetings or support meetings. He's always on. He's hilarious.
Yeah,
he adds a lot.
During this quarantine it has become kind of my I guess pseudo home group. It's like, so I've been going. I didn't do it last night. I was just too damn busy doing this other work. But yeah, I've been doing the which is your 7 p.m., my 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's just been wonderful. Actually, thank you very much for doing those things. Thank you for Genesis House for sponsoring that stuff, because that's the stuff that has been kind of keeping me active in recovery right now. And I've been dealing, the people coming into there. No, I mean, I don't want to give away anything, but there's a lot of nurses in that program, and I really appreciate their perspective right now. It has been giving me a lot to really consider and think about, and be, I have more compassion for and empathy for, our, those people on the front lines doing stuff, so it's been really a treat to watch them participate.
Yeah. And thank you for participating with us, Steve, and I mean, Steve, Carl, and I think we just lost the Podfather for some reason there. So
I think he's going to fix that tire.
Fix a tire. So, but
Black tire, man.
I want to get the ladies' perspective.
Hey, now that he's gone, let's all talk about it.
Yeah. We'll never hear this one. But I want to get the ladies' perspective on things. So I'm going to be honest with the sober pod. I'm gonna kind of throw it out there. I came on, listened to you guys around your 11th step. Sober pod did a whole year of steps, January through December, and they went week by week, ripping apart the steps, digging into the steps. Really, you guys
arguing, yeah.
You really do. It's wonderful. So I think I came in around step 11, maybe a little bit before, but the show, Carl, Steve, can I say what you guys, the agnostic, blah blah blah, the believer?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So Steve, you're the agnostic, correct?
Atheist.
No, I'm the atheist. Carl's the wishy-washy one.
Carl's the one that's in the middle.
I'm stuck in the middle with you, you know.
And Ellen is the believer. So when I heard this show, I was like, this is so cool. I love everything that's going on here. And then the 11th step came, and I was like, oh boy, how are we going to do this one now? I was like, and then I got hooked because you guys did it really, really good from each perspective. Steve, you were wonderful as far as, getting your message out the way you got it out. And Carl, and Ellen, the faith is amazing that you have. It just, you can hear it and feel it when you speak about it. So listening to that, I was like, it was me, the Podfather, and Sweets. And I'm like, we need a female on this show because it would fucking make it sound so much better. Break up the sausage party, just like Carl said. So I stole the idea from you, and then Miss Meg is out. We're talking about each other on each other's show.
You got to go back. We lost you due to technology issues.
Can you hear me?
It happened to me last night too, Sweets. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Don't worry.
Got you.
Don't worry, Ed. It happens to every guy at least once or twice in a day.
Oh, boo.
Nothing to be ashamed of, Ed.
Well, I'm 54, and it just happened to me for the first time ever.
Wow.
You just got to keep practicing. It gets better the more you use
it. Anyway, so I got the idea from you guys to get to have a female break up the sausage party, basically. Like,
Ed, it's genius. It's genius, Ed.
Revolutionary thinking.
That's right. So unfortunately, Miss Meg was just right in the gun sights, unfortunately, and she got sucked into all this. And now Miss Meg is a kind of an unbreakable part of our show, and I do owe that because of you guys. And I want to hear from the ladies, because you're around the guys and we all curse a lot. Miss Meg, I don't know, Miss Meg curses a little bit more than the normal.
I've heard it.
Yeah. So, but I want to hear from your perspective, ladies, how you guys deal with it and kind of, do you enjoy it, or is it something you just do, or whatever? I don't know. Give us your perspective on it.
Ellen, I don't know about you. I mean, for me, as an only child, I didn't grow up with brothers, but most of my friends growing up actually were guys. So I'm comfortable around the fucking raunchy talk, and I think it's hilarious. And I think that sort of adds. I think when you have the dynamic of the different energies, I think it balances things out. And so I thoroughly enjoy it. I have a blast with you guys, and I think on all of our shows, I think someone said it earlier, but. Maybe the Podfather said it, but laughter is so huge in the fact that we all accomplish that and adding that as a benefit to our own lives by doing these shows. But that has a big impact on people when they can tune in and hear a bunch of people laughing and getting along, and it's different genders and everyone's got different lifestyles and different experiences, and it's still all good. And I love it. Ellen, I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, no, I feel comfortable more with male energy than I do female energy sometimes. When I first started in AA, it was, when you go to meetings, it's majority men, and when you went to bars, it was a majority men. So you just kind of get used to that environment. I always loved it. It was actually harder for me to go to women's meetings than men, because men seem to be easier to deal with, to be honest, because it's like you tell a man, just get the hell out of my face, right? And they get it and they'd go. But you tell a woman that and they're like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? You're like, oh, just go. So, I mean, for me being a direct person, it's easier for me to deal with mail. It's just, in the last couple of years that I've learned to actually tone it down a little bit and
Because she sees me as such a bad example. So she's like, yeah, I can't do
be
that anymore.
more one with the female energy, So it's but yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I have brothers. I get along. It's more comfortable. Let's just say it's more comfortable for me.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point too, because like I just remember, Ellen, you brought up the point of like guys were in bars too. Like when I was actively using, I was mostly running with a group of guys. So yeah, actually, I mean, more often than not, I think for opioid addiction, I don't know about other substances and alcoholism, but it mostly affects men. So the active users, women, are sort of a minority in and of ourselves. So when we get into recovery, there's also still less of us. So it is sort of easier to find your core group in guys if that's who you connect to, because there's just more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I found guys to be more accepting of the alcoholism and the addiction part.
Drink more.
I mean, maybe it's just an accountability issue because, when you talk with a bunch of women, like they can call you out on your stuff. But
True.
As far as men are concerned, they don't always do that. They might, but in a more diplomatic way. I've had experiences.
You saying we co-sign all your women's bullshit? Is that what you're saying?
Because we see the bullshit the way the other women see it, so yeah, we get away with a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah, basically, just the same way we got away with it in the bar, right? Just pulling our tricks, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, we were the same way too. By the way, we started just being Steve, right? And so then Ellen came on. I don't know when it was, probably 2-3 months after we had done, some initial stuff, and we just knew that was something that needed to be there, right? It was just kind of natural, like you guys doing the same thing. It's like you can't do this without trying to meet, the demands of all personality types on some level, or at least you're a segment of it. So. Yeah. So that's why it's funny, it just worked out that, Steve is atheist, I'm agnostic, and Ellen's believer. It just worked out that way. It wasn't planned. So that's the other thing, is it makes it really much more interesting when not only you have like these 3 different people, but you also have 3 different belief systems within recovery, because it's also one of the major sticking points for a lot of people. So I think it helps them see that, hey, we can all kind of coexist. We can all do this in recovery. We can all exist.
Anybody can get it. Basically, that's what it is. Anybody can get it. And one thing I do have to say about Miss Meg, our studio, when it's not big, it's probably the size of a garage, and it is a smoking studio. We smoke cigars, so poor Miss Meg has to come into it, and she probably like reeks like cigar smoke. She's been there all day because we record all our shows in 2 days straight. We do. We try to get all friends in recovery one day, so Miss Meg can be there, and then all the answering the calls the next day. And I'm telling you, I have to throw like everything in a washing machine after I get out of there.
Hey, I got a question.
I have no hair to keep it in. So
a question real quick. So, we're sitting here, we're all podcasters in recovery, and there's all these other podcasters in recovery, right? What would your advice be to somebody starting a podcast in recovery? What would your best advice be?
Oh, wow. It's a good question. I get this question a lot, and I'm never one to say, don't follow your dreams. If you have an idea, run with it. And if you have the energy behind it, that'll sustain you. But just know that, you start out with doing a podcast because you are passionate about the message that you want to send. And then it can quickly become a business, and it can become stressful, and you can lose sight of the message. You can let the ego get big, and you can follow the numbers of downloads, and you can get stuck in that, and you can forget that all it takes is one person to hear your strength, experience, and hope to make a shift in their own life. And that's what matters. So if you're going to start a recovery podcast, make sure that you are true about your intentions from the jump, that you are clear and pure about it, and that you're following what your heart really means, because that is what's going to sustain you. If you're
Mike
chasing-
in Nova Scotia.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. People, and it's a great idea because you could set up a mic and you could do it in your house, but it can, if you want to invest in it, it can get as big as you want it to be. And so remember that, follow the message, and don't get caught up in all of the competitive stuff, because it's easy to do.
Absolutely. That's a great great advice. The other thing too, guys, is when we first started Friends in Recovery podcast in a different studio, Studio 21 in Salem, New Hampshire, they said you have to go on YouTube. And I'm glad we did. I know you guys have traditions and you're not on YouTube, and I respect that. But I'm glad that they pushed us to get on YouTube, because YouTube is huge for us. And also, I think getting somebody like Sweets involved to do all your stuff, Sweet Studios, and also donate to SoberPod. They're always looking for
for the cash, yo.
They're always like, I love
expenses.
Steve, I love when you like throw these fucking things in, like, and by the way, you know, that's a good segment for
money
when you do that. So I take you guys on my long runs. I go out run 10, 15, 20 miles every Sunday. And I specifically listen to you guys on my long runs on Sunday. And I'm like, I know he's going to throw it in here somewhere. I know he's going to fucking throw it in here somewhere.
Keep waiting.
And then when I'm like, I'm going to donate to them. And then when I get back to the car, I completely forget about it. And you guys have 50 cents to your bank account because of me. But Meg, like Meg said, stay true to your mission. Stay true to what you're doing. And make sure that message gets out there. Don't get lost in all the bullshit that, like Meg said, the downloads this. We're here to give a message, and that is it. Nothing more, nothing less. Share our experience, strengths, and hope, and shut the fucking thing off, and then do the next one the following week. So that's my advice. Ellen?
Good advice.
Steve?
Well, for myself, what I would say is if you're starting out, it can be really intimidating to look at just the breadth and the sheer amount of recovery podcasts out there, or just podcasts in general. Like, you want a saturated market. This is definitely one of those. Like, there's no shortage of available options. But I would say, like, kind of to what Meg was talking about, it's not your job to represent every viewpoint. You can take that pressure off of yourself and take your viewpoint and just try your best to represent it as authentically as you can and as sincerely as you can, because really, like, in my view, being on a podcast is sort of akin to just like if you were in a meeting. And in a meeting, I'm not tailoring my message to represent, oh, I'm looking for people to ask me to sponsor them. No, I'm presenting my message in a way that I hope someone will take some benefit out of. But if I try to water myself down in the interest of like a promotional effort, then I'm taking away the sincerity that is going to, I'd rather reach 5 or 6 people and do it well in a way that actually connects with them than a shitload of people that are just kind of like, yeah, that sounds all right. Maybe I'll, consider it. It's like what we're talking about here is shit that matters. I don't have to tell you guys, it does make a difference of life and death. This does have a weight to it that is very significant. And so, just carry your message the best you can, and don't worry if everyone likes it. Like, trust me, we've seen some reviews. Not everyone likes it. That's all right.
You know what? We got a real negative one because we were picking on Ellen for cussing, and we had like she had cussed. We had kind of tricked her into cussing at one point. And then the next thing, we had posted it on Reddit, and we just got the most scathing comment of like, "You leave that girl alone. She doesn't deserve your criticisms." Oh my God, it was just so terrible. But you know what?
One of my favorite was we got a review on iTunes once that just tore us apart. They just said like and you know what, they were probably right. But the best part was iTunes removed the review because they used a swear word in it. And the reason they used a swear word was because they were directly quoting one of us in something we had said.
So we didn't have to remove it. It got removed because they quoted us.
Yeah, because they quoted us. They weren't saying, "Oh, these guys fucking suck." They were just saying something horrible that we had said.
I said the word like bullshit like a million times or something. They threw the word bullshit in there.
Oh my God.
man.
Hey, Carl, Ellen, go ahead. Do you want to share on your thoughts about podcasting? That was a great question, Carl.
Yeah, basically, I would mirror what Megan is saying. You know, stay true to yourself, um, and just, you know, your message is out there to inspire somebody, to help somebody. Just like if you were sitting in a meeting, and you never know who you're going to touch. You just never know who's listening and who is on their last leg, and you know, the words that you say or the words of encouragement you get is the thing that pulls them out, you know, pulls them out of that dark, deep hole of addiction. And it's really an awesome privilege to be able to have this technology and to be able to um, reach out to so many people that you would never even meet in your lifetime.
That is true. That is true. And you know, Ellen, I have to second that. And Steve, you too. If we could just help one person, we're on here for what you said. Like let's get the message out and let's tell these people. You know, we look. All of us here are in recovery. All 7 of us are all in recovery. And listen, this is a fucking homely bunch here, except for the 2 women. Okay, we can fucking do it, man. Anybody out there listening can get this. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was important for me, and I always repeat it, is like, you know, I was on Reddit Stop Drinking when I posted, you know, basically the first night, and you know, I was basically considering suicide in a real strong way, and you know, I posted, I woke up, you know, I came to the next morning, and I saw that I had posted something there, and I was like, what the fuck did I post there again? And it was basically a plea for help, right? And then there was one woman on there. She said she was the same age as me. She was, you know, she had two daughters of her own, which I said in my post. I also had kids, and I was afraid of being a distant and a deadbeat dad, and I was afraid I was hurting more people than I cared to admit. And then the one thing she said to me, she said, you know, that I deserve to be happy, and I just never considered that. And you know what I mean? Like, I just never like, oh, like that's a thing. Like people get that. And so just that little bit of sliver of like, you know, permission to seek happiness is what I needed. And that's just, if we do just even that little bit, you know, we've done a lot. Because I'll tell you what, you know, every year on my sobriety date, I you know, I'm friends with her now on Facebook, this woman, and you know, I send her a message and I say thank you, and I say thank you for, you know, giving me, you know, your seed of hope so I could grow my own, right? And it's just like that, you know. And I think that, you know, if we could do that to anybody out there, it's worth it. It's worth the hours. It's worth the effort. It's worth the bullshit. It's worth, you know, going through the effort of looking at the stats and then worrying that, you know, because by the way, I just looked at them this morning. and I know that in this time, like, not a lot of people are having time to listen to podcasts, and of course, this, you know, the subscribers just drop like you would not believe. But again, we're here, right? So when they come back around and they want to binge, you know, and they're ready to do that or go for their runs, like Ed is saying, you know, we're all going to be here, you know, holding the fort. Absolutely. You know, so that's what I love about this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just, but and all the listen, you guys in California, we're on the East Coast, and we all connected because of a podcast. We all have one thing in common. Everybody that's in this room right now, we're in recovery, and some form of recovery, and that's what brought us together. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have even not even known each other. Carl and I have great conversations. You know, it's just amazing, you know, the people that we can meet, and the message that we can get out there. And I know Sweets has been quiet for a while. He's probably doing some technical stuff behind the scenes. But
rolling on my phone, but yes, very technical.
It is very complicated.
He's trying to figure out our numbers.
I just got some photos of the Podfather's flat tire, so he's actively changing his tire.
Are you gonna put those up on screen?
I will. I'll put them up right now.
Oh, funny.
But Sweets, you know, Sweets has been around. He's been doing some stuff too, and you know, tell the audience a little bit of how you got involved with us. And you know, I know you've been quiet there for a little bit, but
against my will.
against his will.
Yeah, you pressed yourselves upon me. No, it was interesting. I mean, you had asked about, people starting a recovery podcast and advice that you'd give them. And, when I first started this, I started a little podcast with, just me and my friends sitting in the garage smoking cigars and talking shit, which was fun. I didn't really care if anyone was listening. I didn't think about Mike in Nova Scotia. I just was enjoying the conversation and smoking my cigar. And one of the things I learned as I was researching podcasts is that most of them don't make it past episode 7. And that's because the passion gets watered down over time. And, when I was a guest on your show, actually, Jersey Ed, promoting my book, and I noticed that there was not just a passion, but the people were listening and you guys had a message and you'd been doing it for a while. And so when the opportunity came to help spread that message even further and add to your platform and bring in some technology and give the listeners something to look at while they listen to you. I don't know if they're happy for that or not, but we gave it to them anyway. And
keeps Sweets busy.
Yeah, it keeps me busy. And more importantly, I really just found out that I have a passion for participating in them, not necessarily running them, but that weird voice in the background that makes fun of Ed. I like doing that. That's fun. And I really like the production side of it. And so my little cigar smoking podcast didn't make it past episode like 11 because the passion died and I couldn't always get the same group of friends together. So I invested all that energy I had into this, and being a person in recovery myself and having an interest in not just recovery, but humanity and like how to recover the human spirit. Once you're in recovery, we do that every episode. Like we get together in a little box, sweat box full of smoke, and we laugh and we talk and we bring up topics that, most people don't think about, myself included, until it comes up. And I'm like, oh shit, I have something to say about that. And then, what do you know? There's a microphone and maybe someone will hear this. This is cool. And so I just really enjoy it. It makes me happy. And it's become a part of my personal recovery process, is not just to do this work and make sure people have access to it, but to participate, share my opinion, ask questions, make fun of Ed, and try to keep Mike, try to keep the Podfather closer to the mic. I really enjoy that stuff. So that's why I did it, and that's why I keep doing it, and I'll keep doing it until the hosts give up, I guess.
I give it up over here. And Miss Meg, I'm going to talk about an episode called Miss Meg Dealer's Choice that we did. Do you mind?
Go for it, Ed. I'm here for it.
So we're a little different when we brought Meg on. Sweets, myself, and the Podfather, we're all in recovery. We're all 12-step. We're abstinence-based. Well, Miss Meg comes on, and I'm listening to her show. I'm like, it's a little different. It's a little things are going on here. I'm like, So out of the blue, she comes up to me and says, yeah, I think I'm not going to do the podcast anymore. Like after 3 shows, I'm like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? So I'm listening to the thing, and so Miss Meg is a cannabis. What do you do? You got a cannabis research going on.
Yeah, I'm running a study right now of people who have used cannabis as an exit strategy from opioid use or addiction. So it doesn't necessarily mean that people have to identify as being in recovery of any kind, but in some capacity have had a problem with using opioids even as prescribed, and then terminated the opioid use, but replaced with cannabis.
Yeah. So my thought with her was bringing her on the show and begging her to stay on the show. I was actually crying and begging her to stay, and she's walking out the driveway. I'm grabbing onto her leg, and she's
like, if I hear the fucking marijuana maintenance program one more time, I'm fucking out of here.
But the reason why I wanted her on the show after her and I spoke and everything, and I want to let everybody see there's a shot, just like Carl said, for anybody. If recovery is so much different today, guys, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this one, but recovery is so much different today than 26 years ago when I got recovery because of the opiates and what's going on today. And if we can save a life by, a cannabis, maintenance program, or a methadone maintenance, or a Suboxone maintenance program, I'm for it. That's not me. That's not what I do. That's not what our show is about. But Miss Meg adds that a little bit into it because she has an insight on that, and she's been doing this study, and she runs recovery a little bit different. But that woman is the smartest woman that I know in recovery, and that's what I call it's recovery, definitely, because her life was fucked up, unmanageable, was out of control way before she got onto, when she got sober in her way. She is going for her doctorate. She is working for a prestigious fucking medical center, Harvard Medical Center up in Massachusetts. This woman has turned her life around, and she's doing it a different way than the rest of us in this room. And I applaud her for that. And she came on our show. It's called Dealer's Choice. And it was amazing that she really shared her heart and soul into it and her passion. So I know it's a little different than what you guys do, but we have to listen to every voice out there. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but that's my story and I'm sticking with it.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. I love that.
Yeah, I absolutely the need for recovery and for different avenues to get there and for people to speak to experience and with expertise is more critical than I think words can actually state. And I love that that's included. The only reason that we don't is because we are, I think the technical term is dum-dums, and that we don't know all of those things to a good enough extent. Well, I mean, for myself personally, I can't speak to any of those things with the kind of expertise I think is necessary to do it in a responsible way. But what we can do is refer to people that do have that expertise, like Meg, like a dictionary, like her work here on Friends in Recovery and the other podcasts that were being mentioned. And I think that's tremendous, because like if AA was the only way, then why the fuck are there still so many drunks? Why the fuck are there still so many people that really struggle with this? And why are there still so many, why is the tombstone business still doing so well when it comes to people that are struggle with addiction?
Yeah.
We're not, in my personal take, we're not in any position, and we don't, like, whether or not we disagree with something, whatever, like we make sure to mark at the top of our shows, we are not experts. We're just a bunch of people saying some shit. And yeah, you might hear us say some dumb shit, but at the end of the day, we want you to know, go look into it yourself, and please turn to the experts. Like
if you go back and listen to some of the early episodes, that's what we were about as well, right? We wanted people to go out and explore those things. That's what Jason, right? His plan was to go go to Smart Recovery, go to Refuge Recovery, go to wherever. And so that's the same thing that we wanted to show that we entered recovery at a certain point, but we've picked up other things along the way. We're not strictly by the book thumping, recovery. We have other things that we actually do in our lives, So whether, and so it's just, it's how to express that, in a way that makes sense for other people so that they can pick it up. Yeah. Again, it's like, Megan, you're going to get a lot of people going, well, that's just marijuana maintenance program. And it's like,
yeah. Oh yeah. All the time. And guess what? They have a right to that experience, because guess what? That was their experience. That marijuana to them did lead to dangerous stuff. And so you have to respect everyone's point of view, because it all gets built from painful experiences. I have a reaction because that's life or death for me. Someone else has a reaction to my story because it's life or death for them. I mean, this is high stakes here. So I think when we can talk like this and we can all come together, it sort of like eases the fears a little bit. It's like, oh, okay.
I always say, like, I don't care how you get this, higher power, hire a therapist, or, your higher self, like, either way, you're gonna find a way to adapt, how to live without substances fucking up your goddamn body and mind, and so, that's just, in however you need to, adapt, adjust, take on, whatever. I set my first therapist appointment yesterday, through
thank goodness.
Ellen, you shut the fuck up. I knew you were coming in on that one. I saw you on mute. I saw you coming after me. I knew it. But that is something that actually I was inspired by Chelsea. You had Chelsea.
Yes.
We have Chelsea. She talks about her recovery. She was like, I got, her parents and everybody's, in a psychologist and therapist in her family. So she went and she got on medication. She also went and got a therapist, and she did all the things necessary for her. And I was just like, wow. I was like, the one thing I've been neglecting is a therapist. And so that's the thing is like, and some people think that that's bullshit as well. Right. Like, I'm not going to pay nobody. I could just go to meetings or whatever they think. But you know what? I had to do it for myself. That's how we do this.
Absolutely.
You know?
Guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Ellen, do you have anything to say on that subject before we wrap it up? And
Yeah,
whoa, buddy. I know what you're going after.
Oh, addiction is a deep.
Get after him, Ellen. Go ahead, get after Carl.
Addiction is a deep, dark hole, and like Carl was saying, whatever it takes to get out of that. And as you get, I guess, more and more sober, you make adjustments. And some people have to start out with medication. I know I shared that getting out of alcoholism, I couldn't sleep at night, and I literally didn't sleep for like 11 months. I mean, not a whole night through. And it was terrible. So in order to like sustain a living and stuff, I had to like get medication and deal with that sleep issue. But, I was able to get off of that medication after a while. But did I consider myself not being sober because I was on medication? No, not at all. And it is a changing world, and the opiates are super strong. They're taking people by the mind and just hijacking it. And so we need creative and new approaches to that, and whatever that looks like, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, this was an excellent show. Thank you so much. This is like you guys said, a long time coming. I'm glad we got both worlds together here. It's like the Seinfeld episode where the two different worlds come and they walk down the street and they meet each other, and we finally got to meet each other together. And Steve, do you want to take your show out so you can tell everybody how to subscribe and do whatever you guys do, and how to donate and all that. So.
Yeah, I was trying to find a place to throw in the odd donation plug throughout since you mentioned that, but
the pressure was on. That's why.
I know. I was trying to find one, but I was like, no, we're guests here, and you guys have been great hosts. So thank you so much for having us on. And if you'd like to support the show, if you need something to brag about in your prayers each night, you can head on over to soberpod.com. Click on the donation link. It's all over the place. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. And just thank you to everyone on Friends in Recovery for having us on. This was a blast.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
And Sweets, you don't have to give us any subscribes or all that. That comes in at the end.
Well, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't suggest that all of our listeners go onto Facebook and search for Friends in Recovery Podcast and be sure that they like our page, comment and share our content, and share our episodes with their friends, or go onto the Google and click onto the YouTube and go on Friends in Recovery Podcast and make sure that they subscribe and turn on notifications so that their phone dings and they can play the red dot game with us, and they can aggressively try to eliminate all the red dots on their phone, and one of them will be us. And then you'll get to watch that episode and you can tell us how much you loved it. And you can go on to iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify and listen to the podcast and leave a review. We like them. And as Carl mentioned, we live for those reviews, and those are the things that tell us that the conversations we're having are actually reaching people. So if you're out there listening and you're feeling feelings and you'd like to tell us about them, good or bad. As Carl mentioned, if the more bad reviews, the better we're doing. Means we're offending people.
I'm feeling horny.
Yeah. Just tell us, man.
I just want to tell you. I'm feeling
pictures,
the feeling.
No pictures. But if you do want to call and leave a weird message, you can do that because we have a phone number for weird messages, and it's fielded by, I believe, Miss Meg's voice is there. So if you can't get enough of Miss Meg,
I'm going to call that all the time.
It's a hotline. You can call and listen to her voice, and then you can tell us what you think. Yeah. You can leave a message. And what's that number, Jersey Ed?
617-379-1163. That's 617-379-1163. Leave a message for us. Leave a message for SoberPod.
Can I call that number if I'm seeking help as well?
Yes.
You can leave a message there.
You leave a message, but there's numbers afterwards for Genesis House and the Podfather and everybody. But if you're, we encourage you to call the other numbers at the end of the show. And there's a number scrolling across the bottom of the screen too, that you can call. So,
and obviously they can always send us an email at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And in that email, they're welcome to draw a picture And that picture could be of what you think Sweets looks like. And then I will get to take a look at that and I will decide. And if I feel like you've won, we will let you know that you've won and you will get a t-shirt. And in addition to a t-shirt, possibly even a chance to come on and make fun of Jersey Ed on a show and help me.
And I'm gonna give the listeners a hint. If you ever seen like, Fabio and like the, it's not butter commercials, have you guys ever seen that? Dude, flowing long hair.
That's right.
Big
That's
rippled
right.
chest, just tan. Oh my
gosh. If you've ever seen that commercial, I'm the little out of shape guy in the background. You can barely make me out, but I'm in that commercial.
Just running away.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much. SoberPod, you guys are wonderful. I encourage our listeners to really look into SoberPod, listen, subscribe to them. And I encourage SoberPod listeners to really listen to us and subscribe to us and listen to us. Let's start sharing this message because both podcasts have a really, really good message. So Podfather is not here right now. So Miss Meg, you know what that means.
What does that mean? Am I taking us out?
You're taking us out.
All right, you guys, it's been fabulous having you on. This is the beauty of recovery when we all come together like this. So if you're listening, check out both shows, SoberPod, Friends in Recovery. Rock on, you guys. Stay safe out there. Don't catch that COVID, all right?
There you go.
Stay sober, everybody.
That concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for supporting those on the path to recovery and for keeping this valuable resource free for our Friends in Recovery community. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. If you can't get enough of Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, you can catch them on Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast, available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube.